Hello and welcome. Today we are looking at the cocoa industry in Ghana today. Many years ago, Tete Kwashi brought a couple of seedlings into the country, which was a cocoa. He tried it. And somehow we all put our elbows to the wheel and created a beautiful industry. And out of that industry has come many educated men, built so many roads, developed Ghana in such a large and a positive way. Today, you think when we mention cocoa, we should have had cocoa experts from Ghana traveling from tropical country to tropical country, teaching them the ethics of cocoa and how to produce it. But no, anytime cocoa is on the table, it's about pilfering, politicization, separation. Indeed, we are not paying that much attention to the industry, and it's now dwindling. The likes of Ivory Coast have now overtaken us. What are we doing wrong, and what can we do right? Erastus Asaridonko, our multimedia journalist in Lab FM in Kumasi, came up with an expose about big scandal of diversifying cocoa chemicals, which indeed yours and my taxes have been used to purchase, to be given to farmers for free, to spray their farms, to increase their yield, so you and I can benefit at the end of it. But that's not the story. Folks, my name is Nadan Sakwa, and this is PM Express. When I come back, I am talking to Erastus Asaridonko, and with me in the studio is Dr. Owusu Efriye Akoto, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kwadaso. It's going to be a very emotional show. Don't move. I'm coming back. Thank you very much for staying in the cocoa industry today. And let me remind viewers to post your comments on Facebook. Go to Facebook and look for Joy News channel and post your comment there, and I'll definitely read it. And while you're posting it, if you can remember, just put it on your area so at least we get a scope of where you are, and then we can greet you and acknowledge you properly. But at the moment, I'd say welcome to my senior brother, Doctor. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good. And then have I got Erastus on the phone? Have I got Erastus on the phone? Dr. Owusu Efriye Akoto is Honorable Member of Parliament for Kwadaso, and also a ranking member of Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee in Parliament. And most importantly, he's a cocoa farmer. So all aside, he's on both. I think he's on both sides of the fence. He's on both sides of the fence. But before I talk to him, I'll go straight to the phones and speak to Erastus, who's done a nation a service by exposing some rot which shouldn't be going on. Erastus, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Very good. Erastus, you've come up with a very disheartening expose about cocoa chemicals being, going to the wrong hands, not going to the farmers to increase their yield. How bad is the situation? Is it a one-off? Is it medium? Is it grave? How bad is it?
Well, Nana, as bad as you can look at it or say it, because when you look at the evidence that I've been able to gather, and mind you, this is coming from two informants who have been working with the police and Cocoa Board for some time in exposing the smuggling of cocoa chemicals meant for the mass-free spraying exercise. And this is to boost cocoa production and make sure that we exceed our targets as a country. And if you look at the quantity of chemicals hoarded by Ghanaians at the local level, being sold to foreigners, Nigerians, Burkinabés, and Ivorians, it will overwhelm you, because Poku Krom, which is a recent case being handled by the Abuakwa police, you find out we have cocoa chemicals to the street value of 155,000 Ghana cedis, loaded in sacks, parked in people's garages, parked in people's kitchens. Then you look at it and you ask yourself, so do the farmers get them at all? I was exposed to this investigation because people came to me and they said, well, these chemicals are not for sale. They are written on them, but we see people selling them on the open market. They are being sold to farmers. So can you investigate? That is when I got to find these two informants. And they took me through cases one by one that they've gone through with the police. Some of them, they have really seized the items. Some of them, vehicle full of chemicals. But then, in the end, the police end up, in some cases, giving the items back to the smugglers, and they sell it out. Some of them, they take monies and they give the items back to their owners. No prosecution. It's hush hush, and that is it. Even recently, after my report, somebody called me who is a staff of Cocoa Board, and he tells me that even what you have done, that is just the tip of the iceberg.
Whoa.
He shows me 89 bags of fertilizers that he was able to tip off to Cocoa Board to impound, and these were being transported to Ivory Coast. So they caught them at the border. Currently, as we speak, the suspects are still running around. He's been informing security agents. Nobody is prepared to arrest them. So you look at the connivance between some Cocoa Board officials, some police officers, some chief farmers, some agents on the ground to ensure that these chemicals do not get to the farmers, but they can sell and make money in their own pockets. It's something that blows your mind.
I mean, this must be a very disheartening report to do. But were you able to find out who, who's behind it? Because if indeed the police arrest them and free them, it means there's a bigger hand playing somewhere. Were you able to fish anything out?
Nana, I would say that it's a clique, and it involves top personalities. It involves Cocoa Board officials, it involves police personnel, it involves the chief farmers themselves, it involves even some of the spraying gangs who are supposed to get the chemicals, mix them, go to the various farms and spray them. Can you imagine that when they bring a truckload of chemicals and, for example, farmers are supposed to get like 7 cartons of Atara, for example, to spray their farms, they are giving just 1 carton. And you ask yourself where the other carton goes. Wow. And in many of the items that have been seized, for example, the pictures I showed the other time, you go to the one that was confiscated at Suyebo Smith Flat. This was a garage full of chemicals, 87 sacks, huge sacks. One of the sacks is even taller than me. Wow. And you see, loaded, and they are being transported by these Nigerians.
And I mean, one way, Max, who owns the garage? I mean, these ones would be easy to track. So, I mean, who owns the garage?
The garage was owned by 2 Ghanaians, and they were arrested as well. And when they were arrested, my informant told me that he saw the Nigerians pack the items the same night back into the truck and send them away. I tried to get information from the police as to what happened to these items. I'm not being told anything. I'm being told you'll be given information at the right time. The information never comes. About 2 weeks before even the report was aired. So, Nana, it cuts across. It's not one person. We have several people conniving and enjoying the booty at the moment.
But you see, what amazes me is that it seems as if, per your story, anytime there's this Conco, mishaps, the attitude from the police is a little bit laid back. You don't see that aggression for prosecution. And it's not just one police, but all of them seem to show the same attitude.
And that is what surprises me, because at a point in time, I meet this Cocoa Board staff, and he tells me that even currently, he showed me correspondence between him and security agencies. He shows me correspondence between him and BNI officials. And to the extent that he has been able to trace the suspects, and he's found them where they are lodging and all that. He's been informing them that, come, let me lead you, let's go and arrest these people. And for 6 months now, nobody wants to lead that arrest. When I went to Goso, for instance, the items that were seized a year ago, I asked, they told me, yes, the case happened, we seized the items, we gave them back to Cocoa Board. Have you done any prosecution? They tell me, we took it to court, but the one suspect Anytime we take him to court, he displays some mental problem, so we could not continue the case up to now. Wait till 2 days, we are going to give you some information as to what happened. Then the 2 days, I keep calling, sending text messages, nobody will even answer them. And so it tells you nobody is interested, and people are more concerned about what they can get from every loot, so to speak. And they are not really concerned about any national interest. Let's get these things seized. Let's see prosecution to the end. No. They are interested in what they can get from that particular operation. That is what I found, and it's so disturbing.
Erastus, from this end, obviously, since you brought this expose, we've also been trying to see if we can get people to speak. You have to write a letter, properly print it, put your DNA, put all the questions you're going to ask, and post it to them. They will vet it before they come in. So even from the top in responding to even your expose has been very difficult. I don't know, were you able to speak to somebody there? Did you get any response? Because we are struggling here.
Nana, I just told you, on the side of the police, all the commanders involved in this, the names I have mentioned in the report, they themselves gave me their numbers, and they said, call us, we're going to give you a reaction. I called several times, they wouldn't pick. I sent text messages, they wouldn't even respond. One of them, the commander for Suntreso, one DSP Napen, he called me back, and then he said, quote, I am going to call and check on what action I took. I think I gave some of the items to Ministry of Agric. I have to get the docket. And up till now, I have not gotten a call from him yet. And I called him, and it's a different story. I called, I went to the office of Cocoa Board in Kumasi. I spoke with the manager. I waited for about an hour. When I had audience with her, she wouldn't even look at the cases I brought. He said, I cannot speak to you. Call my people in Accra. I can't even listen to what you brought. So I called Mr. Yalingo, who is head of security and who also is involved in this whole thing. I called him. He says, no, I'm not even listening to the cases you brought. Please call my public affairs director. So I called I sent Joseph Opoku Gapo to the public affairs director, and he further requests for detailed report on what we want him to react to. So I sent the detailed report to him via Joseph Opoku Gapo, and they are yet to respond to us. And recently, I was at the office when I learned one Cocoa Board official by name Wisdom came over, and he was complaining about why we did not contact Cocoa Board. In fact, I was furious because I have done all I could do, and they are not giving me any response. So I was wondering why on earth he will come to the office and display that kind of attitude. So that is it. Nobody wants to speak to it at the moment, and they keep telling you, go to Accra, go here, wait for us, 3 days, 4 days, 1 week. Nobody's telling you anything.
Erastus, I want to say thank you very much. Keep up the good work for God and country. Somebody has to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nana.
Doctor, I warned viewers that it was going to be a very disheartening show, and I think it's even more disheartening than I thought it was going to be. But carry on, put your comments on Facebook. I will all means read them to you. But Doc, I just want to find out, how autonomous is Cocoa Board?
What do you mean by autonomous?
Well, they seem to be in their world of their own when it comes to cocoa, because we're trying to get to, it's like, oh, I can talk unless he says this, unless they say that. But, cocoa is such a national, and I mean, this is not BNI or seriously, I mean, it's cocoa and we're all involved. So you would have thought, oh, of course, I'll come and do the education or come and clear the air of, chemicals being diverted. But it's like hitting a brick wall.
But it's not even chemicals being diverted. This expose is only, a week ago, 10 days?
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago, there was another expose in Elubo, similar to yours, by another media company. And in the meantime, it's not just the inputs, consistent reports from Volta region about smuggling of cocoa beans to Togo. I mean, farmers everybody is complaining and nobody cares. So, you know, there's this mass trade across the border, illegal trade across the border in Togo. God knows what is happening on our western border with Cote d'Ivoire. You know, so it's, and the irony of all this is that, you know, the DCs were the ones who were responsible for distributing the inputs, the mass spraying and the high-tech inputs.
Before we go, I just want to find out,
Yeah.
I mean, where Cocoa Board's authority starts and ends.
Well, it's with the Ministry of Finance. Cocoa Board comes under the Ministry of Finance, and it has been so for the last 12 years or so.
So who's responsible for going out there to buy Akati and buy the Atara?
No, the Cocoa Board does. I mean, every year the last time they came to Parliament with this syndicated loan application, I invited myself to the committee, finance committee, because, you know, anytime these matters come up, they are referred to the finance committee. And I feel that those of us with technical knowledge about the production should have an input, because they come with a claim that they are going to produce 950,000 metric tons, which I never believed. Okay? So I went in there because as a member of Parliament, you can go to any committee and ask a very simple question. How much did you spend on fertilizers and chemicals last year? That was 2013. They came back $350 million. $350 million. And this figure is not published anywhere. You understand?
That's how much they spend on
Well, that's what they claim. On chemicals. It shows you. We're talking about $1/3 billion US that the Cocoa Board claims it spends on fertilizers and seed and pesticides and those things. So, and there's no audit or anything by the Auditor General. I haven't seen any report. All these things will come to the Public Accounts Committee by the various departments and so on. I've never come across any Auditor General's report on Cocoa Board's activities.
$350 million.
That's what they claim. And I have the notes to show you on that at the committee level, the finance committee, at which I was
That's
present.
substantial.
I asked the question. See, so we are talking about huge sums of money. And do
you know if as a nation we've spent more than this before in the past? I mean, in Kufuor's area you did 1 million metric ton. How
Yes.
much did you spend on pesticides then?
Well, I don't have that research because, see, all these figures are just kept in the drawers. They're never published. So you cannot do a comparative analysis to see the trends, whether they are going up or down.
I was just trying to find out. Maybe it would have been the norm.
I asked a specific question for a specific year, and they gave me a specific answer. And if you were to ask, give me the figures for the last 10 years in this, they will ask you to, just like they asked your colleague, to write in, even as a member of Parliament. It's happened to me before. I asked, they came to Parliament, to our Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs, and I asked the question, you're claiming that you're going to distribute 50 million seedlings for this current year, 2014, 2015. So I said, I want information on the previous years so that I could compare, because I knew that the highest they have ever distributed was 22 million. So to say suddenly that you're going to go more than twice, 2.5 times more, I thought it was not feasible. You know, up to today, I still haven't received an answer. As a member of Parliament responsible for the industry, they're asking me to write, and I said, write for what? You've appeared before our committee. It's on record. You have to give me that information. And you want me to write to who to get that information when I'm representing the people of Kwadaso and they're entitled to know? Although you don't grow cocoa in Kwadaso, there are a lot of farmers resident in Kwadaso who own farms in Ahafo and Seshi. Loads of them. You know, so I have to ask this question. So that's the kind of problem we have with transparency in the affairs of Cocoa Board.
But is it that we don't recognize the potential that cocoa could give us if we paid attention to the industry?
I mean, since 1884, when from Fernando Po, Tetekwashi brought these seeds, I mean, it's been the mainstay of the economy since then. And we know it. If you take away cocoa today, this country will just collapse. You saw the way the city was falling. They had to go and bring this syndicated of 1.7 billion to stabilize the city. You know, so it's critical to our lives. All the 25 million, 26 million Ghanaians.
Why are we hitting a brick wall in the face of this? Because you see, it's even though this is sad, it's not news. I mean, have you all over last year complaining about diversifying of chemicals, farmers not getting their fair share, farmers being neglected, farms not being sprayed? You know, you've been championing and jumping up and down. So
and low producer prices.
Yeah. So what is it that doesn't seem to make us realize that let's pay attention to this industry because we shall all benefit?
Well, the rhetoric is that they are paying attention. That's what government officials will tell you. That's what Setekpe, who is in charge of the industry, will tell you. That's what the head of Cocoa Board will tell you. That's what they will tell you. But on the ground, it's not happening. Look, we have these chemicals being sold in Niger, and the reports are on the international lines, you know, where not for sale, NFS, they think it's a brand name. It's so common. Because they are French speaking, and it's a brand name. It's very good chemical for our farmers. So the farmers in Niger, the farmers in Oyo State in Nigeria, the farmers in Cameroon, the Cameroon one, I didn't know until President Mahama himself at the press conference flashed about last year mentioned it. I didn't think that it gone that far. So we are supplying the whole West Africa, except our own farmers, denying them of this. And not only that, also paying them very low prices, producer prices, compared to our neighbors, which is making the smuggling of the produce go across the border. So if you put it all together, it's a disastrous agricultural cocoa policy they are pursuing for their industry. And what is the consequence? This year, Ghana is going to have the lowest production for the last 10 years. I'm telling you. Take it from me. The lowest. After hitting 1 million, I'll give you a little history. When Kufuor came in 2001, at that time, we were producing only 350,000 metric tons. That's like a third of 1 million metric tons. He put in these two free spraying, mass spraying, and high-tech, which is putting fertilizer under the trees, free of charge for selected big districts. And within 3 years, we had double production to 650,000 metric tons. 3 years, just like a miracle. So then these two exercises were spread across the country, no longer as a pilot, but throughout. And then the projection was that in the next 5 years, we're going to hit 1 million. And the million we hit in 2010, 2011, although Kufuor wasn't there, but the programs were running. And since then, what has happened? We've run down the whole system. They will tell you, oh, the mass spraying is going on. You have to spray 6 times in a year. You'll be lucky now if you see a farmer who says, my farm has been sprayed twice. And who are you deceiving? You know, these diseases, these are natural born fungi and all kinds of viruses. And Craig, Cocoa Research Institute, which is one of the most prestigious, world-class research institutions, they come out always with a recommendation. They're doing research and publishing across the globe, and making recommendations with the seedlings and the high yielding and all those things. They say that we should spray 6 times in a year. And now you are spraying twice. It's just like you going to the doctor, you are ill, and they say take 4 paracetamols, and you take 1. You know, you're just going to have a temporary relief, and you know this won't go well.
Is Ivory Coast and Zaire, do they also have the free spraying like we do here?
No, they don't. But they have a totally different system, and their system is.
Could that be why their beans are more expensive there than it is here because of the?
No. It's not nothing. This is pricing policy, my friend. The point of the fact of the matter is that Ghana's cocoa is premium. For the last 80 years, we are attracting a premium over the world price, the London market, of about 15 to 20%, depending upon the market. So we have the best cocoa. That is well established. Yet, and the other thing is that we have the same acreage with Ivory Coast. Ghana has 1.74 million hectares under cocoa. Ivory Coast have 1.7. And yet this year, Ivory Coast is exporting nearly 1.7 million metric tons, and we will be lucky if we do 700,000. I mean, that is how low our productivity is. Because of all these shenanigans and corruption and so on, where this whole thing about the corruption was just escalating, Cocoa Board decided, okay, we take the distribution away from the DCEs, the political appointees, because they were taking undue advantage of it and giving their cronies and all that. And then we put it to the Cocoa Board itself, Secretariat, to do the distribution. And you hear the outcome? Nothing has changed. Whether you give it to the DCEs or you give it to Cocoa Board itself to do. And from what this Erastus's report, it looks as if this thing is getting even more serious.
So what do you do? Find an independent body to supervise it? What's the way?
I wish there was an official of Cocoa Board here to answer that. To answer you, it's not for me. I'm a farmer. I'm at the receiving end.
You're a ranking member, so you can probably suggest a way out.
No, you see, Parliament is there as a law-making body. We are the legislature. The executive takes the decisions, makes the policies. That's not our role. It's for the executive. They've been elected by the people to manage the affairs of this country.
Then I'll engage you as a cocoa farmer. Just for a few seconds,
Okay.
for a minute, it's going to be a cocoa farmer.
Yeah.
Would you rather an independent body, I don't know from where, who just collects this thing on behalf of Cocoa Board and go around and make sure everybody's farm is sprayed, maybe for a fee from Cocoa Board?
No, but from the history, the little history I've given you and your listeners, you should know that the system worked for so many years. When management changed, look at the consequences. I mean, I'm telling you that within the first 3 years,
could it all be
cocoa
political?
production, I'm talking about management. Of course, management is political.
Yeah.
Okay, the commitment and the responses and all those things, they matter. You know, I mean, it's not just pure coincidence that you have the originators of the idea prosecuting it and getting the results, and somebody else changes the baton, somebody takes the baton, and they are running backwards. You understand what I'm saying?
But to the grassroots, I can imagine the top, messing up. But here we are, we just have chemicals that we need to give to farmers. We need to spray their farm 6 times in a year.
Yeah.
Indeed, we spend $350 million to make sure
dollars
to make sure that these chemicals are in town.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make sure the farmer gets it? That you
how
get it?
how is it that for the first 7 years of the program, farms were being sprayed?
Was your farms being sprayed then?
Yes.
Have you been? But they will come and spray your farm because you are influential. They don't come.
No, but I wasn't a member of parliament then.
Okay.
You understand? I mean, I'm only a member of parliament for the last 6 years. But okay, you could say that I'm influential, so I'll benefit. But I'm saying everybody else was benefiting. That's how come the program was so successful.
How about now? Is your farm affected, or they come?
No, well, they've
farm.
changed. Yeah, because I changed them, for goodness sake. I'm a taxpayer. So I will change them. But what are the poor guy who has 2 acres? Can't even afford the money to go to the district capital to make any noise, or even his extension officer may not come for another 2 months. See, so the responsibility is in the authorities to ensure that the program succeeds. As we speak to you, in theory, the mass spraying and the high-tech are still in place. You go to Cocoa Board, they'll tell you that. But the content of it is what we are talking about. First of all, not all farmers are getting it. I mean, we're getting reports of discrimination, of, if you belong to this party, your farm is not sprayed. But the viruses, I don't know about NPP and whatever CPP or NDC farmers. So if you have to do it, wholesale in order to make it effective. So if you become selective and you are not using the right quantities to do it, then you might as well not do it because you are throwing money away. And this is why we are having these cuts, huge reductions in production. I mean, and I've been warning this for the last 3-4 years on the floor of Parliament, that if we go on like this, we are going to go back to the 2005, 2010. And that's what is happening. Because the last time we did less than 600,000 was, 205, 206.
Are farmers worried about it?
Of course. Farmers' pockets are being hit directly. Because instead of producing 10 loads, he's doing maybe 4. Because he hasn't got the chemicals to control the diseases. I mean, if you have enough chemicals to control the diseases at the right time, then your yields go up. And if your yields go up, it means that your production, your income goes up, and you are better off. So now, from 1 million to 700, you know, that is what, 30% less. It affects all farmers because it's not just small farmers. Proportionally, it affects everybody. So cocoa farmers are the poorer for it. If you combine the production, the reduced production with the reduced real producer prices, you see that they are even far worse off, you know? Because when, for 3 years, cocoa producer prices were kept at the same level by this government. For 3 good years, at 212 Ghana cedis per bag of 64 kilograms. And we were screaming in Parliament, they would never give in until this October. And when they doubled the price, it's to now 345. And they made a lot of propaganda, oh, we've doubled the price of cocoa. At that time, I was saying that for my calculation, the producer price should be 479. If you look at the exchange rate, the price we are fetching on the London market, the FOB and all that, then they should be getting 479. And indeed, at the moment, what the Togolese are paying the Ivoirians with the current exchange rate is close to the 500. And that's why the smuggling is going on. So
if I took the same bag to Togo, I'll get close to 500.
Yes. You are getting 245. Yeah.
345.
345. Would you decide to keep it here or you take it across? So no. So both on the input side and on the product side, the policies are wrong, and it's hitting production so bad.
But then again, here you're getting free spraying and free chemicals. So maybe if I gave you 500 and didn't spray it and didn't do the chemicals, you still end up back at the 345.
No, it doesn't work like that. Otherwise, where's the production? Then everything will be going up.
No, but you see, it comes at a cost. I mean, it's 350 million, which we have to spread.
Yes.
So maybe that's where that difference between 500 and 345 is.
Well,
I don't. 350 million.
I'm not sure about your calculation. It doesn't work.
No. I'm just giving approximate. I'm giving approximate figures that. A bag of 64 kilo is 345 here, but then I'll spray the farm for you and I give you fertilizer. And I'll bring you an extension officer for free and, guaranteed to buy it. But if I go to Togo, you go and plant your thing, bring it, and I give you 500.
No, but you still have extension and so on. I mean, it's not as if it's totally laissez-faire. They have services for farmers, of course. They do, like we do here. So, I mean, but the net result is what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If the same economic conditions under these same microclimate exist, then we should be getting parity. And it's better to compare Ivory Coast to Ghana because we have the same acreage. The same acreage. And we are doing less than half.
That's embarrassing.
I mean, it shows you the inefficiencies in the cocoa production industry in Ghana. And the policymakers should sit and seriously consider what is wrong with the policies that they are carrying out for Ghana's industry.
Let me get some comments on Facebook. I have Mohammed Mashoud. He says, I don't know where we Ghanaians are heading to. It looks ironic when people would think they should protect our state, they rather destroying it. How can these people do that? Please, we must set up. It's painful. But most painful aspect is that those who divert the chemicals will go free. Nothing will happen to them. I'm sad for Ghana. Godfred says the police officers involved in this scandal seems to be trading the chemicals. Not today. The laws of the land should deal with him. Commander Naba is won't say that on air. Something good evening to you. It says we have a natural resource, but the question is, do we have the capable leaders to harness it to benefit the people? Nana, we are doomed as a nation under leadership of greedy politicians at Adatu. I'm going to take a break, and then when I come, I just want to find out from Doc, should we take some of the powers from Cocoa Board and take some somewhere so that maybe the spraying goes directly to, let's say, Ministry of Agric? They just handle the spraying side. It's not nothing to do with Cocoa Board, and they just go and buy the beans and sell, and then we move on. Will that work? I don't know. Stay tuned. We're coming back. Very much for staying the cocoa industry today. Or maybe I think the appropriate caption would have been the sad story of cocoa. Talking to Dr. Usu Efriya Koto, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kwada, so also ranking member of Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee in Parliament, and he is a cocoa farmer. And just before the break, I just wanted to find out, should we split up Cocoa Board and probably maybe the chemical and fertilizer side, just leave it with the Ministry of Agric to deal with what they're doing. Maybe Cocoa Board, handle the beans and sell it abroad and bring us our money. I don't know if that will work, but thank you for sending your comments to Facebook. Look for Joy News and post your comment there. Abdul Fatah says it will help to improve productivity as far as technology is concerned. Magzi Mubarak, you are in Bimbila, all the way up there. And you said sometimes you wonder if the leaders of this country really care about our welfare as citizens. Ghana progress doesn't depend on the oil discovered. It depends on our ability to make good use of farmlands, be it cocoa or any other crop. Our government is failing us. JM, sit up. We are tired. Keep your comments coming and I'll read up. Doc, should we, take certain things from Cocoa Board and give it to maybe the Agric Ministry to look after?
Well, cocoa is an agricultural activity. It's a farm activity. And cocoa farmers also are food farmers.
Let me jump in again. Is there anywhere in the world where the Ministry of Finance looked after an aspect of farming?
It's a very strange arrangement, but there's a historical reason for it.
Okay.
In the 60s and 70s, cocoa was so important. Nearly a quarter of our total government revenue was coming from cocoa. I'm talking about domestic revenue, not export earnings.
Okay.
Domestic revenue was coming from cocoa. That's why Champong created the Ministry of Cocoa Affairs. Cocoa Affairs was a whole ministry. Champong created that. And subsequent to that, the ministry was absorbed into the Ministry of Finance. It went to the Ministry of Finance. And before then, it was at the presidency. I think, from the presidency, they brought it to the presidency, created a Ministry of Cocoa Affairs, and then from there, after abolishing the Ministry of Cocoa Affairs, it went to the Finance Ministry because of this importance to the revenue. But now cocoa, in terms of domestic revenue, is only about 4 or 5%. It's no longer important. And yet, the agricultural aspects of cocoa, which blends in with the rest of the forest agricultural activities. And in actual fact, the cocoa should be the driving force. But now it's been ring-fenced as it is for so long that the rest of the agricultural economy is not benefiting from it in terms of the wonderful research done at Craig and all those things, the extensions and the warehousing and the marketing infrastructure. Cocoa has shifted, as you know, from Eastern region. Historically, it came to Ashanti region, Bronhafo, and now it's ended up in the Western region as the big place. And as you go along, the warehousing and so on, and there are a lot of warehouses which have been abandoned in the Eastern region and so on, which the rest of the agricultural economy could do with. But because it's Cocoa Board, outside everything. And there are a lot of such synergies which are being denied the agricultural sector because of the way cocoa is being managed. So I agree with you, there's need to restructure the whole arrangement for managing the industry so that it harmonizes with the rest of the agricultural economy, and also serve as a pool to the rest of them, including the stable crops like plantain and maize and the others. So we really need seriously to look at it. But that's a long-term arrangement. I mean, at the moment, how do you stop these greedy bees from, sucking us as they are doing? I mean, that's a short-term thing. I mean, it's a task. Because if we don't do anything about it, cocoa production will just go, the Akate will just eat and eat and eat, and production will just go down to the level when Kufuor took over 300 and something thousand. And it could happen very quickly. It could happen within 4 or 5 years. Because, the virus is so energetic. If you fail to control it and control it properly, it raises its ugly head and can destroy the industry. It's done it before, So it's a cause of great worry for some of us about the way the whole thing is being mismanaged. And the corruption in the system, which is eating away all the efforts. And, this corruption and so on, it takes a political will to control it. If your own cronies are benefiting from the corruption, your hands are tied. And that's the way I see it. That's the way I see it.
Doug, you raised something which has always been on my mind, and you're talking about domestic. I feel that our domestic consumption or use of cocoa is just too low. And it brings my mind to Sri Lanka, who was exporting tea. And anytime they took the tea out, we found a bee in it, we found an ant in it. So one year they decided, forget it, we're going to drink our tea. Now they import it. They got so used to their tea, now they produce and import their tea, and they can't have enough of it. Can we get to a point where with school feeding program, start the children, getting them used to cocoa so that when they grow, now they're so used to cocoa, they want to go and buy. And then we use it because it's a very, very healthy.
The promotional aspect is good. But you see, unfortunately, cocoa, you can't compare cocoa to tea. Cocoa, chocolate is such a high luxury item. It's such a high luxury item.
Chocolate, I mean, the powder that you drink.
Well,
the cocoa powder to drink it. Not necessarily making the chocolate, but just the dark chocolate that you drink, so you get used to it.
It's still expensive compared to your cocoa. It's still very expensive compared to your cocoa. Your cocoa that you drink in the morning or whatever. I mean, what is the breakfast? It's cocoa. Most people, most children will have or some plantain or something before they go to school. If you compare that to, because you still have to go through the process of producing the cocoa drink.
Yeah.
The cocoa drink is chocolate. You're almost there. You're almost there, one stage to chocolate. You see, so it's too expensive. I mean, I'd rather encourage more cocoa to be drunk and then, get into the chocolate business here to sell to get the money. I mean, we don't have to be, there's too much cocoa in this country to be drunk locally. That's what I'm saying.
But you see, even though, I'm not saying maybe we should drink every single bean, process every single bean and drink it, but we could definitely do with a lot more than what we're doing now. Because there are children from cocoa farming areas who, to them, chocolate is probably something they see once a year.
They've never seen it. A lot of them have never seen it at all. Yeah.
And it's an indictment on us to once upon a time be the second, the first producers of cocoa, second producers of cocoa, and their own children who work on these farms don't even know why we're producing this bean. So can we look at that, or it's just too expensive, so forget it?
No, these are I call them long-term.
1841. How long do we?
Yeah, but I'm saying if you have to make a start. I mean, we have a crisis on our hands. Let's talk about a crisis. We are looking at the long-term solutions. But how do we stop the rot in the cocoa industry, the fall in production, the corruption and the thievery the stealing, the smuggling, which has become rampant all over. And it reminds me of the premix fuel. You know, the fishermen are suffering the same thing. You know that the National Premix Fuel Committee has recently been dissolved because the corruption there, people are just siphoning these things off instead of going to the fishermen, your people. They are denied it, and then they have to go on the open market to buy premix fuel, 3 times the price of the official price. You know, my committee, we've been on the coast all the way to Axim, and the complaints we had. So you don't know where to turn. You don't know where to turn.
You see, Doc, going back to cocoa, you see, is this, you know, syndicate or this thing being successful because most people just sort of know and hear of cocoa? I mean, like me, I don't have any cocoa farm or actually have a friend who's a cocoa farmer. I just read in the papers, or I know that, oh, they're going to get a cocoa syndicated loan. It's a bit far from me.
Yes.
I don't drink cocoa every day or eat chocolate every day either. You know, maybe if we brought it closer to home.
Look, I mean, but let me tell you that there are 850,000 cocoa farmers in Ghana. It's the single biggest producer within the agriculture industry, within the economy. 850,000 cocoa farmers. I'm talking about registered. Okay? So if you are not close to them, you are close to me. You are here.
I'm going to take a quick break and come back. But $350 million spent on Akati and fertilizers. Surely every farmer should have a taste or a little pinch of Akati on their farm. And if you haven't gotten it, then we need to find out why. We're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying. I get one more comment on Facebook, and this is from Veterans. Since the problem is far beyond the president, the state has no money for all the social interventions, be it allowance, NHIs, tertiary utility bills, school feeding, affordable housing, district assembly common fund, petroleum products, GET fund, and the list goes on and on. If so, what do you expect the president does with the state but to take us back to the gutters, IMF, where they will remote control us for the scanty money which the state can easily and have paid to the cronies far more than the bailout as corruption. The veterans support good governance, but not what Mahama is offering us. Ghana must wake up and work again. Doc, we have to wake up and work again. How do we agitate, or what buttons do we press to make sure that the cocoa farmer gets his fair share? Have we even got into the cocoa farmer being denied the cocoa scholarship for their child to go to school? The fact that cocoa clinic is in, you know, Bubuashi, that hasn't even come in yet. All he needs is just spray my pots. I'll bring my 64 bag or kilo. You just give me my 345. I'll go and pay my son's school fees myself. How do we get that to work?
Well, you see, this is, you're talking politics here about the power. Who has the power to control, to determine the price? And the executive has the monopoly. I think the 850,000 farmers, cocoa farmers, should organize themselves into a very at the moment, the leadership of cocoa is a joke. They just appoint people. And they are there. And the farmers don't even know them. If this is a democratic country where every 4 years we choose who should rule us, cocoa farmers should also choose their own leaders. Then that way they'll have a voice to control things. But as it is, everybody is in their little pigeonholes. Since the 1950s, when the CPP converted the cooperatives into a wing of the CPP and destroyed the cooperative spirit, the farmers in general have never recovered from it. So we really, and cocoa, a very identifiable group of people with the one product and so on, should be able to have open governance, should benefit from our democracy by being able to choose their own leaders who will be their spokespersons, who will advocate for them, and will be able to sit on equal terms with the executive and say, hey, And it happens that, you know, you go to Uganda Coffee Board, very, very powerful group of people. When they speak, when they call, the government shakes. And until we get that balance of power with this monopoly or the executive decided, okay, I'm going to pay you this, I'll give you this bonus. For 3 years, Cocoa Board, the government refused to pay the bonuses of cocoa farmers. That's 3 years. Last year, the president went to Tepa and said that the farmers were going to be paid. Up to today, they haven't been paid. And when I do the calculation, it's worth about 100 million Ghana cedis being denied some of the poorest farmers in this country. It's even obscene. It's immoral. And yet, who is there to speak for them? Nobody. They should be speaking for themselves by organizing themselves. Choose their own leaders at the district levels, regional level, at the national level. Have a council of their own. So they can sit on equal terms with the executive and say, hey, this is our product, this is our sweat. We demand this. But until we have that kind of political arrangement, we're going to have this situation going on and on to the detriment of the country. Because if the farmer is satisfied with the price that he gets enough income from what he's doing, it's the incentive to drive higher and higher. That's why the cocoa farmer in Ivory Coast is performing more than twice what the Ghanaian is doing.
But one thing that I'm really walking away with this from this interview is this $350 million. I just want to find out if it's a regular amount that's always been spent on fertilizers. I don't have any other figure to compare to, but it just looks big.
Yeah, I doubt it because, you know, fertilizer prices and other go up and down like any other commodity. It's a commodity. So in some years, the prices will be low, some years will be high. Of course, in the meantime, the depreciation of the city, where we don't produce one single speck of fertilizer, we import all the elements here. So it's affected by the exchange rate. So it will be, but they have the figure, they just wouldn't give it to you.
Doc, thank you very much. This conversation has to be, probably do part 1 to 16, and we probably won't get to the end of it, but at least we have started it. Well, I want to say thank you very much to directors, Mark Bright and Azalu Production, Famous, Achichobi, Nijani, and Jennifer Jane, beautiful cameraman. Tomorrow, personality profile, our own gallant lady who's now with the Lord, Theodosia Okun, will be our personality tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that. Very inspiring woman. Gave us our national flag. What more can we ask for? But thank you very much for watching. And as we always say, we'll be back to do this all over again. Doctor, thank you very much.
Most welcome.